Alright guys, so we are finally pulling the engine on the RX8. We highly recommend pulling the transmission if you're going to pull the engine because it is very easy to do. If you want to do that, the video for that will be in the description below. If you're capable and you've worked on cars before, it really shouldn't take you more than an hour to get the transmission down. It just makes pulling the engine out of the chassis so much easier without having to fight the transmission and all that. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove the computer cover, and we're going to disconnect the harness, get all the electrical out of the way, disconnect the AC lines, which we have already evacuated. Make sure you do that. If you don't, I'm not going to watch you, so I'm not your dad. And then we're going to disconnect them right here and just try to consolidate everything onto the engine so the engine is standalone, and then we can just lift it all out in one easy shot. Alright, so the lid for the computer box is held on by 3 10mm bolts. Once you get this off, the PCM is held in by 3 10mm bolts right here. And then you just disconnect the connectors right here, and you should be able to pull it straight up. And watch out for the part down here that sucks in air or pulls in air to keep the computers cool. Alright, once you get the PCM off, you'll have access to your safety harness right here, which you just lift up and pull off, and the entire harness is free, and you can just put that on top of the engine like so. And before we pull it, we'll probably zip tie them down so they don't get out into the way, along with any hoses or vacuum lines, anything like that that could get snagged. Just try to keep everything as condensed to the center as possible. Alright, next we're going to go ahead and disconnect the wires from the negative terminal and the positive terminal, along with the wires that go to the fans and this ground. And then after that, we're going to go to the body control module, 2 10mm, and this little piece right here, and you should have the majority of the harness done with that. We got the AC removed. We just need to remove this piece and remove it from the firewall right there. Next, we're going to be doing the coolant hoses, the fuel lines, which are right here. They have a blue and a red tab on them, and the brake booster vacuum line. Alright, next we're going to disconnect the heater core hoses. We're going to do that underneath right here. And this one, we're going to disconnect it so we can leave this whole pipe in here. We're going to disconnect it right here. Where's my flashlight? Alright, next step, we're going to get to the oil coolant lines that go to the engine. So you're going to need to remove the tensioner for the AC. You can go ahead and undo all that. Me personally, I'm just going to take off these 2 12mm bolts right there, and the whole tensioner will just pop right off, and that's just the easy way to do it. And you can worry about putting it back together when you're putting the engine back in. Alright, the next step is going to be to remove the oil cooler lines. The easiest way to do this is right here. Here's the radiator, and I've got it highlighted with the flashlight right there. And the second one is actually right here on the side of the engine. Get my flashlight again. Right there. Disconnect those two, and the oil cooler lines will be disconnected from the engine. Make sure you have your catch can or something to catch the oil, because it should still have oil in it. And after that, and to disconnect that, you just need to pull these little pins out from the one where you just disconnected the line. So right here, disconnecting that one, it's just this little pin. You can just use a little pick, something like one of those, to get it out. Pretty easy. And then you just pull on it. And there you go. Let the oil drain out, and then separate it and zip tie it to the engine so you can pull it. Alright, the next step is going to be to come right here and disconnect these two high side and low side lines from the AC compressor. The one should connect to the condenser up front, and the other one you might be able to just remove off of the engine altogether. Alright, and with the air conditioning lines disconnected from the AC compressor, you can just go ahead and remove this hose altogether from the vehicle. And we are pretty much ready to go ahead and get this thing ready to lift out. So let's get the engine chained up and go through the removal process. Alright, so we are ready to unbolt the engine from the engine mount. A lot of people would want you to undo that top bolt right there, but then that leaves the mounts on the engine, and I don't feel like dealing with the wings sticking out. I want this to be nice and compact so it's easy for pulling. So I'm going to unbolt them from the actual engine, and after we get the engine out, I'll show you exactly how I have everything bolted up with the chain, and we will go from there. Alright, and the engine is out. There were a couple other things that we had to move out of the way that I wasn't expecting. The steering rack had to be unbolted. It's just four bolts, and then just kind of moved out of the way. It just moves a little bit. And the sway bar link right here, if I can get my hand down here, had to be moved out of the way. But other than that, so like 8 bolts total for everything. Other than that, the engine came out pretty smoothly. I'll come over here and show you. So normally there would be a bolt or somewhere to hook it, a little hook hanging out about right here with an oval on it for you to hook a chain onto. We didn't have that for some reason, so we ended up putting it right here on the alternator bracket. And then on the back we had the chain come back here, and we had it connect to this bolt and then this bolt, and then we left slack in the chain and connected it right in the center, so it was chained front to back like that. And we just grabbed it and we were able to just rotate it back a little bit, lift it up slowly, and it came out pretty easy.